Good evening, friends. Today we'll be covering up module number 2, which is going to be approaches to internationalization of SMEs. Now, the first mod, there are four types of models here, which is called the Uppsala model, which is U model. The second model is referred as innovation model or innovation related internationalization model, which is I model. The third one is the network approach. Fourth is the internationalization approach. International entrepreneurial approach, which is the fourth one. Now, let's look at each of these models separately. The Uppsala model, which is a U model, it was initially developed by Johnson and Wiedersheim, Apol, and Whalen, which in between 1975 and 1977, which described internationalization as a process of gradual learning through experiences gained from foreign markets. So each and every word, gradual learning through experienced gain from from foreign market or international markets. Now, according to this model, there are two fundamental concepts which is considered as the main contribution to the U model. One is the learning process, and second one is the physical distance. Now, the U model takes the managerial and organizational experience as key elements of internationalization and accentuates the theory, the learning theory in this process. Now there are two units here. One is the static aspect of it, this is the dynamic aspect of it. The static aspect of it refers to the state, the dynamic aspect refers to the change. Now when you look at, there is a two-way communication happening here. One is at the static state, you have the market knowledge and market commitment. When you have a dynamic, you have a commitment decisions and current activities. Now when you look at it, the market knowledge leads to commitment decisions. Now the current activities again leads into marketing commitment. Now if you look at it, it's a loop. Okay, it's a loop between the static to dynamic, dynamic to static, right? Now, as per Johnson and Whalen in 1977, the process of internationalization is an acquisition, integration, and utilization of knowledge in the international operations and an incremental participation in the international market. Now, the model is constructed on two essential elements: the amount of sources committed and the degree of commitment. Now, the internationalization process is understood by Johnson and Whalen 1990 as an interaction between the successive knowledge development or on foreign markets and a gradual resource commitment to the international market. There are four steps involved in the Uppsala school as a key component to sequential process of internationalization. One is irregular export activities, export through independent agents. Third is establishment of an overseas sales subsidiary. Fourth is overseas production and manufacturing unit. Okay, continuing back, Johnson and Valney, 1977, developed this concept of Uppsala model to explain the psychic proximity is a significant factor for enterprises to choose the international market entry. Now, they suggest that the diminution of the psychic distance will make the enterprise get closer to the market in the foreign countries. Now, the psychic distance separating SMEs from the foreign market will decrease with accumulation of international experience and knowledge. Now, the innovation related internationalization model, which is also referred as I model, views internationalization as a process in which the steps are ambiguous and which is analogous to the new product adoption as per Roger 1962. Okay, now according to the different views of I model, the decisions of internationalization is affected either by the push or the pull force. The mechanism of push is an external change which initiates the export decisions, and the mechanisms of pull is an internal change which explains the shift from one step to another step. Now, according to Leondio, so, according to Leonardo and Katsikis, 1996, they consider the different process of I model can be essentially generalized into three main stages. One of the thing is called the pre-export stage. The second thing is the export trial stage. Third is advanced export stage. Now, pre-export stage explains the enterprise interests only in domestic market. The enterprise searches for internet for information and evaluates the feasibility of the export activities. Now the enterprise has already exported on limited basis, but exports are no more. Right. In the export trial stage, the enterprise starts to export irregularly when it has the potential to extend its activities to foreign markets. That is a export trial stage. The advanced export stage, the enterprise exports regularly with extended experiences to foreign markets and conceives other forms of commitment to international market. Now, the network approach is developed in the work of Upasala School by improving the original model 1977. Johnson and Valney in 1990 indicates that the importance of putting the enterprise in its network based on these concepts of original model. Knowledge, commitment, ongoing activities, and decision making. They try to explain the motivation and the modes of internationalization by putting the enterprise in a multilateral framework by mobilizing the intra and inter-organizational relations according to Laxoy 2009. Laxoy 2009. Now, the network approach of internationalization, Johnson and Matson in 1988, describes the degree of internalization of market across the degree of internalization of the enterprise. Now, if you look at the y-axis, it's the degree of internalization of enterprise. The x-axis is the degree of internalization of market. Now, it is again considered as low and high and high and low, low and high. Now, low to low is the earlier starters. The low to high is the late starters. At the high low, it's a lowly international. High is the international among others. Okay. Now, the earliest starter has limited relationship with other foreign enterprises and thus has limited knowledge and international market about international market. The second thing is generally they appeal to more experienced local agents and distributors in order to enter a foreign market. That means anybody who's entering an international market will have to go through a mediocre person or a middleman or some kind of a person who's in charge of the as a coordinator is in charge of the country, whom you will be in touch with them, and then he will try to help you to sell the products into their market or get entry into the market. Now, the enterprise often starts international operations by an export, which is frequently taken by the partners, but it will accumulate useful experiences for the future. Now, the resources adjustment is important in this stage because the enterprise needs, on one hand, to increase the production capability of the new market demand, and on the other hand, to improve the physical distance and the knowledge development of the new market. The lonely international is highly international throughout the world market where it is where it located is not right. The enterprise can get access to the new market network and extend its activities by its experience. Now, the late starters as an internal network which will generate the pull force from its international market. The enterprise is often attracted to internationalization by other members of the international network, customers, suppliers, etc. like that. Now, hence, resource adjustments and activity coordination to internationalization are necessary. Now, for the internationalization among the others, it belongs to a developed and a comparative network in which the members operate mostly the international market. Now, the enterprise and its network are highly international here. The network approach provides a complementary perspective to other international models and assumes that internationalization strategies stipulated by the enterprise are influenced by their positions and conditions in the network. In consequences, the relationship with network can drive, facilitate, or even accelerate the internationalization process of the enterprise. Johnson and Matson 1988 in regards to internationalization as an accumulative process in which relationship with foreign partners are established, right, and developed and maintained in the continuous way in order to fulfill the international development of the enterprise. This is a big definition here. Probably you can look into it and if you can read it and understand from the exam point of view. If you find it very tough, maybe you can find some other alternative definitions. Okay, so the in Johnson and Matson model 1988, they speak about the key points about progressive learning and knowledge development through interaction inside the network take great importance because the enterprise can be considered as an international in other enterprises in its network or international. The position of the enterprise in a network is also accumulated results of its activity in formal or informal networks. Based on the perspective comprising the two aspects, they identify four situations of internationalization in which the enterprise internalization strategies are linked to need of the knowledge development and the relationship adjustments in the network. So as we move on to the next model, which is international entrepreneurship approach model, it was developed by Mac Douglas and Oviatt. Oviatt and Mac Douglas in 1994, and Mac Douglas and Oviatt in 2000, which explains internationalization of the enterprise. The concept of internationalization enterprise is initially defined as the development of new international activities by a new enterprise, as per MacDougall, 1988. Sorry, not Mark Douglas, is MacDougall, 1988. If the stage approach can be applied specifically to analyze SMEs internalization, it can confronting more and more exceptional cases of born global, which is nothing but BG enterprises, and international new ventures, INV, right? So empirical studies conducted among BG, the business, the born global and born global and international new ventures showed that the enterprise tend to follow their domestic clients into an international market regardless to their psychic distance. Now, the type of internalization behavior observed with SMEs combined with the limits of stage approach and the entrepreneurial perspective, the network approach as well. Now, it calls for emergence of the network entrepreneurial approach from this. Now, a number of studies have been shown that network of the entrepreneur will facilitate the acquisition of resources and competence in order to form in terms of team formation, finding information, and also into partnership opportunities, etc. Now, the integrated knowledge management model attempts to bring link between the process and the strategy while offering specific initiatives at different stages. Now, the model also outlines the international relationship of information and information management systems to knowledge management, which is not also referred as KM in short. Now, the dark gray elements represent knowledge management initiatives. When I refer to gray, you will be seeing the flowchart which I will be showing after this slide. Okay, let me explain. The dark gray element represents knowledge management initiatives. The yellow box represents corporate strategy, while the teal box depict data and information systems and repositories. Now, the process is initiated from the tactical and the strategic concentrations, illustrating the way knowledge management strategy goes hand in hand with the corporate strategy. Now, the non-bolded element in the gray oval indicates the knowledge related to processes that go on with the organization and it operates and which management affects and enhances its initiatives. Now, the first thing is data detect and discover here. Now, detect and discover is nothing but search for an executing knowledge as well as hidden knowledge within the information and data. One. Second thing is organize and assess organization and assessment of knowledge assets. Knowledge is categorized, evaluated, and made easier to access by providing maps, etc. Right? Now, if you look at this is what we are talking. All the gray areas are elements of knowledge management, and if you look at the yellow areas, they talk about the corporate strategy, right? So, when you look at the teal boxes, which describes the information systems and repositories there, right? So now, apart from how these works, the knowledge management tactics works as act to reuse, act to create and acquire, act failure to act. Now, act to reuse. If the firms are considering existing knowledge to meet a tactical opportunity or threat, the role of knowledge management is to identify the knowledge and enable to be used. Now, that means that if it is acquired by a different person or a group, the knowledge management is responsible for making it available for all relevant parties. Knowledge reuse thus combines the previous points on detection and organization with a new aspect of knowledge sharing. Now, act, create, or acquire. If the right knowledge resources do not exist, the firm may create or acquire them, assuming the right process and systems are in place to support this. Now, for example, the knowledge may be acquired from partners if the right relationship are in place. Now, knowledge creation depends on the right internal environments that allow for combination and conversion of knowledge assets. Now, failure to act. This is not really a knowledge management initiative in itself, but it does have some implications. In this event that a firm fails to act, there is still a lesson to be learned. Management must evaluate if it is something that needs to be addressed in the future. The decision has to be fed. The decision has to be fed back into the loop, affecting the future strategic choices. Now, the fourth one is invest. Support or implement the organizational structure, culture, knowledge, retention, competencies, external network, and systems that direct, affect, and enable the knowledge initiatives discussed above in above points. Now, strategic initiatives may be an example which involves creating a knowledge share culture, restructuring the firm, establishing a beneficial partnership, or implementing a new IT system. Now, if the right environment systems is already in place, management must make sure it is continuously supported. Support is provided. If it is important to note that some of these do not fall solely within the knowledge management, and they are all fields of study in their own right. However, if in case we are interested in solely in the way the broader strategic initiative focuses and directions of knowledge management in the long term. Now, this divest when knowledge assets become obsolete, they have to be removed. Now, knowledge management is responsible for maintaining relevant knowledge assets. Looking at the next one, the differentiation between the tactical and the strategical initiatives should not be seen as a categorical and relative projects and initiatives will often have mixed goals. The integrated knowledge management model itself should be seen as continuous looping with new or modified knowledge and information being fed into the organizational memory and information repository each time. So basically what we're trying to do is we are trying to access the information about organizational from the repositories which have been accumulated and stored in the archives, or we can also look at it as something which has a lot of information which has been there in the loop, which runs around in the loop. Now all these processes are thus supported by information systems. Now if you typically go back to your second semester when you had MIS, in MIS, first semester or second semester, in MIS you have strategic level, operational level, and tactical level. That's exactly what we are using here on a knowledge management model. Now all processes are thus supported by information systems. They play an important role in tracking the progress and feeding the information back into the system. This way, each time the integrated knowledge management model is run, it is based on different information, understanding knowledge and circumstances than the last time. As with all sequential model, none have to be absolutely literally. Although this is also called as integrated knowledge management model, it is not intended to be all encompassing. Since knowledge management is a broad discipline, one could continue to add elements until the model is so complex that it has no meaning. Okay. Coming back again, the strategy of internationalization is defined as a gradual process based on the seminal study of Johnson and Wittgenstein Paul, which was published in 1975. Now, according to their perspective, when a firm develops an internationalization strategy, given its lack of experience and regular information, it will start with the sporadic export activities to physically proximate destinations. Thereafter it will incrementally advance both in the use of the resources and its international implications as its international experience increases. Now, in this body of work, it is argued that companies begin their internationalization process in countries with closer psychic distances, PD, which is also referred as PD, before venturing to more psychic distance countries. Now, the dichotomization of transition pattern into, there are two things here. One is a shock therapy and a gradualist model inadequate for the classification of transition economies for two reasons. One of the reason is, first, the observed pattern of transition were rather chaotic mixtures of systematic changes and changes in the economic policies, some of which could be considered elements of gradualist approach, whereas others could be viewed as an element of shock therapy. Now, the second one view is where what was a shock therapy, shock one for one country, for example, price and trade liberalization, was an element of graduate approach or even an initial condition in another country. When what really mattered here is the choice of tools and for the customers of transition where initial conditions apply, right? Outcomes apply. Now, if you look at it, there is a pyramid which I've shown, the graduate school. The graduate school as Upasala model theory and psychological distances. Now, when? That is a point when. Now, there's another side of it which is non-gradualistic approach, which is international network approach. Then you have international new ventures and international entrepreneurship, which is part of your house strategy there. Now, when you look at the left-hand side, which is a resource-based view, it talks about technological resources, financial resources, human resources, organizational resources, and finally relation resources. This is where what. So it starts with when, how, and what. Okay, this is the strategic internationalization process here, the graduatic approach. Now, now, if you look at the Born Global affirms that adapt an international or even global approach, right, for their birth or from their birth, okay, from their birth or very shortly thereafter, according to Madsen and Surveys in 1995. Born leaders are new concept and it is expected to become common phenomenon in the future. Now, born leaders have a more rapid and intensive internationalization process than traditional forms. Now, we wanted to find out internationalization could explain which could explain born globals. Now, as per Knight and Kausgil, 1998. Sorry, I'm sorry for that. It's just pronounced that way. So they state that born globals are firms. They have reached a share of sale of assets. Foreign sale of at least 25% of starting the export activities within the 3 years after the birth. Hence, we define form of international when they have activities in foreign countries, no matter if they use exports, agent or foreign direct investments. The factors that emerge of born leaders are new market conditions. Second thing is technological development in the area of production, transportation, and communication. Third, we talk about more elaborate capabilities of the people there. Now, here is a metrics which speaks about the model, Upasala and border leaders. If you look at the model, the first row element is called internationalization. Under Uppsala, it talks about after domestic market. Under global leader, world is their domestic market. Under behavioral assumption, Uppsala talks about risk aversion, uncertainty, avoidance. In the global leader, it talks about entrepreneurial, proactive risk taking there. The third is advantage of internationalization, economies of scale, and market dominance in global niche. Now, fourth one is key capabilities in international expansions. Now, experiential knowledge network possible is at Uppsala. Now, at Born Global, flexible, innovative adaptation for foreign market opportunities there. Now, approach to internationalization. Uppsala model talks about causation and opportunity recognition. Under Born Leader, they speak about effectuation and opportunity creation again. It talks under the internationalization pattern model. It speaks the Uppsala model talks about sequential. The Born Leader speaks about quick expansion from foundation. The next, we are talking about the economic approach. We have different approaches. One is the monolithic advanced stage approach, the internationalization approach, transaction cost theory approach, elective paradigm, and gradualistic approach, Uppsala model, I model. These are all part of your economic approach. Under the non-graduate approach, it talks about an international network approach, international new venture or born global. Third is international entrepreneurship. On the right hand side, you can see the monopolistic theory was about Kindleberger in 1969. Heimer. These are the people who were part of these models here. Now, this would give an explanatory, self-explanatory of who was involved with which type of theory. Okay, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please use Postimobi app to put in your details so that I'll be able to look into your doubts and clarify the doubts as quickly as possible. Thank you very much once again and have a great evening. Bye. So coming back, with this we end module number 2. You can always come back to me if you have any doubts. I'll be able to explain to you clearly on one-on-one basis. Thank you so much.